One of the hardest things to deal with as a teacher is all the paperwork. Well, don't worry, because in this video, I am sharing some tips on how to keep up with all of that paperwork. If you're new here, I'm Rachel Vincent, and I'm a 4th grade teacher in South Carolina, and I love sharing ways to help teachers simplify their classroom and their teaching. And today, I'm helping you simplify your paperwork. The first thing to keep in mind is what works for one person doesn't work for others. So the best thing to do is to keep trying different ways until you find the system that works for you. So I have done a paperwork video before that when I first started my YouTube channel, and I do some of the things very similar. And one of my big things is I like it to be concealed. I don't like visual clutter. I like this. I don't like that. I started to realize that some of the things that I put here were out of sight and out of mind, and I would forget about them. So I've updated my system just a little. I'm just gonna walk you around this little area because this is where I keep the majority of my papers to show you everything and how I keep up with my system. Again, it's my system, it works for me. I hope the ideas will work for you, but if they don't, keep trying until you find a system that does work for you.
All right, so we're starting here, and this is my subject drawer. I used to do days of the week, but now I have found that subjects actually work better for me for a couple of reasons. First, I like a subject drawer because when I get all the copies, we have PTA that runs our copies, so we get them usually on either Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, and it's just easy to sort by subject and put away. Even though my grade level splits up the planning where one teacher plans math, another teacher does science, I don't always like to do whatever they've assigned for that particular day. I know it might work better for my kids on a different day. I typically like to use it, but I also like to have the flexibility. So being able to just say, look through the pile for the week and be like, okay, I want to use this for this lesson, I want to use this for my small group, makes it just a little bit easier for me. Another thing that we do as a grade level is we all put the day that it is in the plans to use. So that also makes it really easy. So I can look for Tuesdays, pull it out, and know that that's what I'm supposed to use with our lesson plans that day. And typically any of our copies that I don't use, I will use for morning work or test review, test prep, those types of things. So even if I don't decide not to use it for a particular lesson, I will use it eventually throughout the year. So when it is time for that lesson, I pull out the papers I need. I typically stick them here to pass out to the students, or I might even put them over here because this is my teaching area so that I can share them with students. After I have passed them out, any extras will go in our daily papers, and I collect them here all week. It's right beside our turn-in bin so that if a student is missing their paper and can't find it, or they're absent, they know to look here. And then at the end of the week, I'll take all those papers and stick them in our extra copies. And I usually keep those there until the end of the quarter. So as you saw, I have the turn-in bin, and papers usually stay in there until I'm ready to grade them. Sometimes if it gets full, if we have a lot of assignments in a week that need to be graded, I will go ahead and pull them out, mark off who's turned it in, even if I haven't graded them, and I will put them in my grade drawer here. That lets me know I've gone through, I know who has turned in the assignment, I just haven't graded it yet. And then once I grade it, I will actually put it on just a checklist. It's kind of like an old school grade book, and then it immediately goes in this file system. This has all student numbers, and the back is a place where I put them until I'm ready to file them. That gets them off my tables, out of the way, they're graded, I've got the grade. I only like to go into our digital grade book like once a week. I just try to be a little efficient, and I feel like writing it down real quick, putting the papers away is a lot less steps than like logging in, finding. I don't know. It's a personal preference. I'd rather write it down and then go in there. Plus, this is easier to look to see who's still missing something, who was absent that I need to make sure they do an assignment, than logging into our digital gradebook every time. I feel like this saves a step. So the process I follow for lesson planning. When I am planning a lesson, I print whatever resource I need to be copied right away. That keeps me from forgetting to make copies of it or having to go back into the plans to find it. We have to turn in formal plans. So then what I do, so I go ahead and put in here, like I already have some papers that we do every single week. I just print those out, and then we have our copy slips that we turn in. I keep a folder. It's actually in the PTA room already waiting to be copied, but I keep a folder like slid in right here. That's where I put all the copies. I take my folder and my copy paper down to the PTA room for our fabulous PTA to do it. So this is just where I keep everything. So when it's time to reload that folder to turn it in, it's ready to go. Then when I get those papers from my copy box, they go into my subject folders. And like I said, I pass it out to the students. Okay, so this is my student files. All of the graded papers go in here, and then I file them into the student numbers that I've already filed for the week, and they're ready to be put into their Thursday folders, which I keep right here so that they can be sent home to parents. So one of my biggest problems was I always had papers around and I wanted a place for them to go so I could clean up my desk quickly. But also I said that if I kept things over here, I would sometimes forget about them. So a new thing I came up with this year was this little filing system here. So this is a quick place for me to put papers that collected a lot on my desk and things that I didn't want to miss and forget about, like people who are still working or absent work, like these papers need to go in my still working because they didn't finish their math test. This is where I like go over answers and things like that on the document. That's what I put in my weekly papers. Like that's our language review. We're about to do math coming up next, so I'll go ahead and pull up my math review. I keep my gradebook system in here. And then this is just, that miscellaneous section is for anything else that I just don't want out but need access to rather quickly. So now I have cleaned up this area pretty quickly and I'm good to go. You know how the office will sometimes send you some random paper, put it in your box, and you like have to hold on to it for like a week or two? That's where that goes, right there under my calendar, so I can always find it because I don't have an actual place in my system for stuff like that. I don't want to forget about it, like a form I have to fill out or a list for class pictures or whatever. It goes right there. It's not perfect, like, I mean, a lot of that student artwork, but I have a few other things that I just need to keep in mind. I've always said I'm a type A person and I love organization, but I also have some type B personality in me, and like that bothers me, but not enough to fix it. And I still have like stacks of paper. Like I have been going through our ELA standards because we get new standards next year, and I've been going through them and figuring out what matches, what has changing. There's always gonna be stuff just around. I mean, when you have 25 humans in one room, plus yourself using tons of paper, it's just gonna be a mess. One way to help keep those pesky piles from stacking up on your table is to make it a student job so that they can help you organize it and sort it. A lot of times I do that with our turn-in bin. If it gets kind of full, I have a student go through, put all the papers that are alike together and paper clip them, or even check off who's turned in something. It is a great job to have for a student to do, especially some of your really organized students. And if you'd like to see more of the student jobs that I do in my classroom, check out the video that's on your screen now.